Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Thank you so much everyone for coming for this very, very special day. It's an appearance of Bhagavad-gītā. It's my favorite day of the year. Yeah. So we're gonna read from Bhagavad-gītā today, and it's 4th chapter, verse number 3. Let me see. Okay, I'll say, you can just repeat. Sa evāyaṁ mayā tedyam.
Sa evāyaṁ mayā tedyam.
Sa evāyaṁ mayā tedyam.
Sa evāyaṁ mayā tedyam.
Yogaḥ proktaḥ purātanaḥ.
Yogaḥ proktaḥ.
Bhakto me sakhā ceti.
Bhakto me sakhā ceti.
Rahasyam etad uttamam.
Rahasyam etad uttamam.
Sa evāyaṁ mayā tedyam.
Sa evāyaṁ mayā tedyam.
Yogaḥ proktaḥ purātanaḥ.
Yogaḥ proktaḥ.
Bhakto me sakhā ceti.
Bhakto me sakhā ceti.
Rahasyam etad uttamam.
Rahasyam etad uttamam.
Sa evāyaṁ mayā tedyam.
Sa evāyaṁ mayā tedyam.
Yogaḥ proktaḥ purātanaḥ.
Yogaḥ proktaḥ.
Bhakto me sakhā ceti.
Bhakto me sakhā ceti.
Rahasyam etad uttamam.
Rahasyam etad uttamam.
If anybody wants to chant.
Sa evāyaṁ mayā tedyam.
Sa evāyaṁ mayā tedyam.
Yogaḥ proktaḥ purātanaḥ.
Yogaḥ proktaḥ purātanaḥ.
Bhakto me sakhā ceti.
Bhakto me sakhā ceti.
Rahasyam etad uttamam.
Rahasyam etad uttamam.
Sa evāyaṁ mayā tedyam.
Sa evāyaṁ mayā tedyam.
Yogaḥ proktaḥ purātanaḥ.
Yogaḥ proktaḥ purātanaḥ.
Bhakto me sakhā ceti.
Bhakto me sakhā ceti.
Rahasyam etad uttamam.
Rahasyam etad uttamam. Anyone else? Ladies? We need at least one. Sa evāyaṁ mayā tedyam. Yogaḥ proktaḥ purātanaḥ. Bhakto me sakhā ceti. Rahasyam etad uttamam. Yeah, the more we repeat the verse, we can memorize it easily. Imagine if we had 20 people here and then everyone would repeat. By the end of the class, we would memorize the verse. That's a nice thing to remember. Okay, word-for-word translation. Sakhā, the same. Evāyaṁ, certainly. Ayam, this. Mayā, by me. Te, unto you. Adya, today. Yogaḥ, the science of yoga. Proktaḥ, spoken. Purātanaḥ, very old. Bhaktaḥ, devotee. Asi, you are. Me, my. Sakhā, friend. Cha, also. Iti, therefore. Rahasyam, mystery. He, certainly. Etad, these. Uttamam, transcendental. Translation and purport of His Divine Grace, Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. That very ancient science of the relationship with the Supreme is today told by me to you because you are my devotee, as well as my friend, and can therefore understand the transcendental mystery of this science. I'll say, you can repeat. That very ancient science of the relationship with the Supreme is today told by me to you. Because you are my devotee. As well as my friend. And can therefore understand the transcendental mystery of this science. Purport. There are two classes of men, namely the devotee and the demon. The Lord selected Arjuna as the recipient of this great science, owing to his being a devotee of the Lord. But for the demon, it is not possible to understand this great mysterious science. There are a number of editions of this great book of knowledge. Some of them have commentaries by the devotees, and some of them have commentaries by the demons. Commentation by the devotees is real, whereas that of the demons is useless. Arjuna accepts Śrī Kṛṣṇa as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and any commentary on the Gita following in the footsteps of Arjuna is real devotional service to the cause of this great science. The demonic, however, do not accept Lord Kṛṣṇa as he is. Instead, they concoct something about Kṛṣṇa and mislead general readers from the path of Kṛṣṇa's instructions. He is warning about such misleading paths. One should try to follow the disciplic succession from Arjuna and thus be benefited by this great science of Śrīmad Bhagavad-gītā. Om Jnana-timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manubhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadhamayam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamshcham Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Ragunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shivishakam Vitamshcham He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhano Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrindam Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. I feel very honored to speak on Gita Jayanti because it's a very special day, and I was wondering if any senior devotee can speak, but I got permission to speak myself. Cultivation of young devotees. So I'm very feel very honored. And first of all, I would like to ask for blessings of all the senior devotees who are present here. Manishalavati. Jai Krishna Prabhu. I know also that Mother Malati is watching online, so she really give her blessings. So may I speak something in line with Shastra and beneficial to everyone. So, as we know, Bhagavad-gītā, this is probably the first book which you would receive if you meet a book distributor on the street, if you're not a devotee. And this book is considered to be the most important book to read. And So this book is actually, when Srila Prabhupada was translating the books, when he was writing the books, Bhagavad-gītā was one of the first books which he wanted, of course, to print out for mass distribution to people in general, because he knew the potency of this book, that only by reading, as he said, if someone reads, one page, right, or even one word from any of Srila Prabhupada's books, he will get really, the benefit, it cannot be compared to anything else, what he will get. And especially Bhagavad-gītā. And by now, Bhagavad-gītā is translated to more than 100 languages and distributed widely all over the world, which was one of Srila Prabhupada's desires. And so I was just thinking and looking for different classes on Gita Jayanti. So there are different names for this day by now. Gita Jayanti is one. We have a world campaign which calls World Gita Day, because not everyone is familiar with even word Jayanti. What does it even mean? And but everyone deserves to read Bhagavad-gītā, and it's easy to relate to people. So, and also, of course, this day we call Advent of Bhagavad-gītā, when the Bhagavad-gītā was actually spoken on the battlefield of Kurukshetra to Arjuna by Krishna. So this particular verse, it gives us understanding what's the qualification we have to really get what Bhagavad-gītā talking about. Because we can read as many times, but if there is no devotion, if there is no this desire to understand, not for the purposes to just become a scholar and teach, the intention should be devotion, that you want to teach it out of compassion, not out of your scholarly education. So in this way, we know that many, at least by now, many schools teach Bhagavad-gītā, and I met people on book distribution who they would know, they would know all the philosophy, they know different pastimes, right? They really, read Bhagavad-gītā, but they have no devotion. That's why, they couldn't get the ultimate conclusion of the Gita. And when you talk to a person like this, you can understand it right away, that the intention is different than bhakti. So what makes Bhagavad-gītā unique, because there are so many different books in the Vedic culture, we have different Upanishads, different, I don't know how you call them. Anyway, different books, so many different books, right? But Bhagavad-gītā, it's considered to be the main book which contains everything what we need to know without even reading Upanishads or any other Vedic literatures. Because we know that all this Vedic knowledge, right? It was written a long time ago, and for now, for us, it's very difficult to understand. We don't even speak Sanskrit. What to speak about understanding what it is saying. So why Bhagavad-gītā is unique, because it contains. It's considered to be both Shruti and Smriti. Shruti means that it's basically, like a codex of mantras, where, to perform different rituals. Brahmanas use different mantras, right? And Smriti, it's actual application of these mantras, how to live this life with God. And usually it was separated, right? It's whether you study mantras, you study all these different things, and Smriti is just basic application. And Bhagavad-gītā, it has all these original mantras. It says that every verse in Bhagavad-gītā, it's mantra. It's basically you can really recite only one verse in Bhagavad-gītā, you'll be very successful in this life. That's how powerful it is. And also explanation, so it going on simultaneously. It's original sound of these mantras and explanation how to actually apply it on our life. So how to really have this relationship with God. And also it's unique because Krishna tells himself that what's the purpose of Bhagavad-gītā and what's the purpose of all spiritual life. Why are we practicing it? Well, for us, for Westerners, it's we kind of have this idea already, but if you think about people who come in from different backgrounds, for example, Indian background or Nepal, they have so much information about this, and it's easy to get caught up in different rituals and just do it for the sake of just doing it. And in the Bhagavad-gītā particularly, Krishna says what's the essence of it? Why are we doing all these rituals? And why are we doing all this bhakti? Because actually to attain Him, to develop relationship with Krishna. And Srila Prabhupada gives this example that you don't need to go to all different water outlets to satisfy your need, but you can just go to the big river and all your needs will be satisfied. So Bhagavad-gītā is like this, so this is everything. While with the book distribution, some people follow this technique by His Grace Vaisheshika Prabhu, and one of the steps we tell people who read this book, it's right here on the back, and it's actually very profound thoughts. Like Henry David Thoreau says, for example, that it's in the morning I bathe my intellect in the stupendous and cosmogonal philosophy of the Bhagavad-gītā, in comparison with which our modern world and its literature seem puny and trivial. So it's nice that he compares it as a bathing, like we bathe every morning, hopefully. We bathe every morning, it's, externally, but also what about our mind, what about our subtle body? It also needs to be bathed. And as we know, one of the rules for our sadhana, it needs to be constant. So we need to constantly practice devotional service. And one of them, it's our sadhana. Sadhana means chanting 16 rounds and reading Srila Prabhupada's books, at least the main things. And what it means constantly, at least every day. So at least every day, because when you might notice when you go to sleep and when you wake up in the morning, you're two completely different people. You're a different person, You might go to sleep and you have so many ideas and like, yeah, I'm gonna do it and this and this and that. But in the morning you wake up and like, nah, okay, I'll just do whatever. It's different thoughts with different people. Yeah, and so to put your mind and your consciousness in the proper mood, how to live this day, how to go through this day, it's very important to read scriptures like Bhagavad-gītā. One of the things we do, maybe most of you know here, it's a chapter a day. So Srila Prabhupada gave an instruction to his followers that you should read Bhagavad-gītā every day, at least one chapter. And what the secret organization chat does is that you can read chapter a day, it takes 10 minutes, 10-15 minutes, and it's only English or only Sanskrit. And only English or only Sanskrit, or you can do both. You can do one purport or anything, but literally it takes 10 minutes, but it will tremendously change how you see the world after this. And it's so interesting also how sometimes, mind tells you so many different things, But then once you start actually reading it, right, your mind gets engaged and you get taste. Even though at first place maybe, we didn't want to read, or it's like, I have more important things to do. And then when your mind gets engaged, you're like, oh, let me read something else, and something else, something else. So we need to kind of trick our mind a little bit, like that. So another feature of Bhagavad Gita is that it is a conversation. And when you hear the conversation, right, especially like interesting conversation of exalted people or someone, you want to know what they're going to say next, right? And it's very easy to relate because we all the time conversing with each other, right? We're asking different questions, we look for advice, we give advice. And especially if things become very intense, right, in our life or in others' life, we actually want to hear it, something about it, right? It's like, oh, what's going on with this person? Like it just natural desire, we want to hear it. And here in Bhagavad Gita we see that how it starts, that Dhritarashtra, he asks his servant, right, Sanjaya, and this Sanjaya, he has basically mystic powers, right? It's already far out if you think about it. And then they're not even there on the battlefield, but they're involved because this is their father, the father of the people who are actually fighting. That's why he wants to know what's going to happen, of course. And it's just interesting to hear. It's very, we also have all these questions all the time, but we don't really get really good answers. If you ask mundane person, what it means, what the soul means to you, or what is karma, how am I supposed to understand how am I supposed to work and practice devotional life? So these things, it seems easy, but it's very hard to explain to if somebody asks you. So, and Krishna explains it everything to Arjuna, and it's pretty amazing also because when Krishna starts telling Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna is in really distress. From one side, he has the sense of duty because he's a kshatriya, that's what he does. He kills people, he protects everyone. But from other side, he has all these feelings towards his family, and that's how Bhagavad Gita starts. He doesn't know what to do. He becomes very perturbed by this situation, and that's when Krishna starts speaking to him. And don't we all sometimes in this kind of situation when we don't know what to do? And this is another thing here, what Mahatma Gandhi says. He says very nice thing as his, word in Bhagavad Gita. When doubts haunt me, when disappointments stare me in the face, and I see not one ray of hope on the horizon, I turn to Bhagavad Gita and find a verse to comfort me. And I immediately begin to smile in the midst of overwhelming sorrow. Those who meditate on the Gita will derive fresh joy and new meanings from it every day. So this is something what I do myself, and I kind of suggest people to do on book distribution also. If you're going through difficult situation or you need the answer, right, you can just open randomly verse. That's what Mahatma Gandhi did, apparently, to comfort him, right, to really get an answer, like what am I supposed to do? Because Krishna, he's a super soul in everyone's heart, and he's there, but sometimes we can't hear him. Most of the times, we just don't hear him. But Bhagavad Gita, this is what he spoke. Even if we cannot hear from inside, not everyone is advanced, like Bhagavad Gita, you don't need to be advanced to read Bhagavad Gita at all, right? All you need to have is sincerity and desire to understand, desire to just to seek this advice from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And it works all the time. He will definitely tell you what to do. It's also a very simplified philosophy. It's very profound, but it's very simplified. And by simplified, I mean that Bhagavad Gita gives very nice comparisons. So, you know how it tells us that the mind is your best friend or the worst enemy. If you think about it, it's very easy to understand what would it be like to live with your worst enemy. It's quite hard, and this is what we do. We live with our mind as the worst enemy. It tells us something, you know, and then we follow it. Or it says that the mind is a chanchala compared to a 2-year-old child, whoever have kids, or who, I don't know, babysit kids, or just have experience with the kids for, 5 minutes, understand like, oh my God, this is, I can understand it now. So it's very easy to relate, very easy to understand. It's very simplified for us, comparing to, different like scriptures. I remember one time, I think I gave this example before, but I was asked to work on a book for His Holiness Kadamba Swami about different holy places where Srila Prabhupada was in New York. So basically I was going everywhere and taking pictures. This was my job, not the book, just the pictures. And I went to the library, public library in New York, because Srila Prabhupada left Śrīmad Bhagavatam there. And he would go there also all the time. And then I started just asking people who work there for Śrīmad Bhagavatam, but I didn't mention by Srila Prabhupada. And what they brought to me, it was also Śrīmad Bhagavatam, but it was by different author, the translation. And I'm like, oh, I've never seen it before. Let me just, read it a little bit. maybe I can, just understand. I was very curious. And then I opened this book, and I started reading, and the fact is I couldn't understand anything. And it wasn't because of English, but because of the way it was explained and the way it was translated. It's very hard to understand. And it's hard to understand what it even means and what even behind this meaning. So Srila Prabhupada did really amazing job and to put Bhagavad-gītā for us in really simplified way. We distributed it on the streets, right? And people had never had experience with this kind of philosophy, but then they read and they can relate to so many things. And another important thing what Bhagavad-gītā talks about, 3 modes of material nature, which helps us really to understand and navigate our life, to live our life more informed, because it's kind of helps us understand where we are and what we're doing here and different things what influence us. Like if you go into like a big mall, right? There is when you get lost or something, or even when you not get lost, but you come into this stand and it says, oh, you are here. And it's easy to navigate from there. I mean, even if I knew the mall, still, like, how do I know where I am? I might think I'm here, but then if I don't have the instructions, right, it's very hard to navigate. So in Bhagavad-gītā, it is like that. It says that it is like a manual for this life. It's a manual how to use this human form of body and how to really understand what are we doing here and what are we supposed to do here and why we're always miserable. If from Bhagavad-gītā we understand that, okay, there are 2 energies, right? Krishna has 2 energies, it's material and spiritual. And Krishna says to Arjuna that, you are spiritual energy. That's why we're suffering here all the time. We try to make so many adjustments, get a good house, arrange the best service for yourself, get the best food, but then still there is so much, we're not satisfied. There all the time needs to be some kind of adjustments. And why? Krishna explains that, because we don't belong to this material world. No matter how hard we try to adjust, it won't be perfect. We just don't belong here. In this book, I remember in the Spanish version of this book, Meditation, like a small book, there is a picture. There is a picture which shows the fish, and the fish it's out of the water. And from all the sides, their hands with giving the fish, like cigarettes or like journals or something, like food. But then the fish just needs water. Whatever you give to the fish, it won't be satisfied. The same for us. And when we know this, like how can we know it? No other literature tells about these kind of things, about the modes of material nature. And the more you read, the more you can recognize that you're going through different situations, through even different places, and you can really understand, oh, I feel a little bit agitated, it seems like it's kind of passionate, mode of passion, right? And then you can actually adjust your own life, and you can be aware of whether you want to go towards this direction or you don't. Because if you don't have this knowledge, there is no way you can choose. You can just react. Also another thing Bhagavad Gita says, it gives us real understanding of yourself. That first senses, right? The lowest thing we have. Then it comes to mind, then intelligence. Then you understand, like, okay, I'm not the senses. At least we have to elevate ourselves to the level of intelligence. And then, even from intelligence, we understand that I'm not intelligent, I'm above this. And it helps navigate your desires also, because, these desires come up all the time. And you can just see that, will it really, I'm not these desires, it already gives you time to not react on them, And another thing, you can really choose whether, you can see, first of all, whether they will bring you down, if you actually fulfill this desire, or they will bring you up. And you have a power to choose and, to ultimately control your desires like that. And I don't know, Bhagavad Gita is amazing. Like, where else you can get this kind of knowledge? It seems so simple when you keep reading Bhagavad Gita. It seems like, this is how it works. But when you first read it, it's very profound. It's very profound. And especially when you start applying it for your life. Like in my own experience, when I found Bhagavad Gita, I read about Bhagavad Gita in a book by Radhanath Maharaj, Journey Home. He mentioned it, and I'm like, oh, let me find it. And I downloaded it, but it was only translation. So I just read it, and I didn't understand much, but I appreciated the story. I was like, wow, I've never heard this kind of story. And then for the second time, I read a little bit of Bhagavad Gita. I found this verse, which says, that less intelligent people worship demigods. And right away I had this thought, I'm not less intelligent, I'm not going to worship them, because I had this small statue of Ganesha, who I would carry with me all the time. It's not like I was worshiping, I didn't know what worship means, but I would carry him with me, I had feelings for him. But then when I read this verse in the Bhagavad Gita, I really understood, like, no, I'm not less intelligent person. And then I started reading Bhagavad Gita, and then basically I became devotee. And I was thinking that would be nice to share for all of us what Bhagavad Gita means to you. We have about 20 minutes, but we don't have many people, which is Krishna's arrangement today. Maybe we can share how, when you first get Bhagavad Gita, and how did it make you feel? How about that? We have Maya.
First, give us some stories.
Which stories? I already said all the stories.
Last class without you to give us some book distribution story. Bhagavad Gita distribution story.
Oh, well, yeah, about this time, around this time, December, 5 years ago, I distributed my first Bhagavad Gita. And it was really amazing feeling, like really first big book. Yeah, I came to Harnim devotees and I'm like, oh my god, I distributed Bhagavad Gita. And they would distribute hundreds of Bhagavad Gitas every day. Like, oh yeah, so nice. But for me it was like, wow, it's possible, it's amazing. And from that time, I started distributing Bhagavad Gitas. Mathura Prabhu has a story to share.
Yes, I just wondered, it brought up memories of before I joined, maybe a few months before I joined, I was somehow directed to a impersonal ashram, and like I say, the guru was a Brahman. He seemed genuine. He seemed like he had actually reached that stage from the information about him. But so we would sit and talk when we were eating. He was vegetarian, of course. I don't know if they offered it to anybody or anything, but we had discussions a lot for about a month or so. And then nice people were there. They were very friendly and nice people. But we couldn't come to a conclusion about anything. And I was always I felt there was something lacking there, but it was the best place to be for me at the time. I didn't know any other alternative. And I also wanted to just mention in the religion I grew up, it was basically Jewish. The rabbis didn't have much information about God. Basically, they worshiped the book of God, like the Torah, and they kissed the Torah when they came by, you know, with their, and which is good, but no information about a person, God. So when I got the Gita, somehow I came across the Gita in that ashram, and I have to say, a devotee had been living there, and he left BTGs and Gita. So it was in my room. They actually planted it in my room, and then I discovered it one day. And the one remarkable thing about me before even opening it up was the cover of Kṛṣṇa and Arjuna, and it was very remarkable. It just affected me to see that beautiful picture. I think that's the one that's on the blue and the horses, the bluish Gita there. And then when I opened it up, it just struck me. It was just so powerful to make me realize, that God is a person. Actually, there's this person. He's saying, "I am this. I am the light of the sun. I am," and it resonated. It made sense. Okay, someone has to be the cause of all this amazing thing we call life, and it makes sense. So, although Śrīla Prabhupada he refers to the Bhagavad Gita in many times as ABC. And when you think of ABC, oh, that's for kids, that's for children, that's kindergarten, But on the other hand, I'm saying he did, of course, refer to it for a purpose, the ABC. But it's so powerful, this Gita, and to awaken us who have very little knowledge of a personal God in the Western world, especially. And so I think that's the power of the Gita. It could just wake us up very quickly and to accept this transcendental person called Kṛṣṇa, and that's just my little experience.
Thank you for sharing. Wow. Yeah, and you see, it's like everyone's so different, but it's there's everything in there. Every single person will get attracted by some particular things in the Gita. Like Mathura said, you really like this chapter, right? About I am the sun, and 11th chapter, Bhagavad-gītā. It's a nice one. Yeah, and I forgot to tell about the essence. The essence from all these things that, we learn about material nature and about, how everything relates and, our desires and senses. The essence is that just surrender to Kṛṣṇa, that's what he says, right? Because otherwise you won't be able to overcome it. There is no way you can overcome it because it's also Kṛṣṇa. He's the most powerful, right? But just by surrendering to him. Yeah, and another thing is very interesting that even though given all this knowledge, right, to Arjuna, at the end he says, well, I spoke to you this Bhagavad Gita, but now it's your own choice whether you want to follow it or you still wanna don't follow it. Just live by yourself like that and just make your own decisions. So it's also powerful, free will. Okay, who's next? Dear Krishna Prabhu, how did you get your first Bhagavad Gita? In Switzerland?
I have to admit, when I first read Bhagavad Gītā.
You had what?
When I first read Bhagavad Gītā, I had so many difficulties to understand. There have been so many words, I could just not understand.
I still have difficulties to understand.
So I needed, big covering, I needed association with devotees so that I had a basic understanding of all these words so that I could actually understand it. But for me, I like to give tours to Westerners in the temple, you know, and they always tell them that Bhagavad-gītā is our Bible. Every religious movement has a Bible. You know, the Islam has the Quran, the Jews have the Torah, and the Christians have the Bible. And I try to explain them the essence, you know, and Srila Prabhupada, you're the soul, you're not the body, you know, and what is the consequence, you know. As the soul is eternal, that we are having reincarnation as we have the changing body presentation out there, and to give people an understanding about their karma, you know, in a good way or in a bad way, you know. So that, and finally, of course, the surrender, you know. I do not say surrender, but I say that as we are eternal servants, our duty is to serve Krishna, you know. And most of the people are really blown off to hear this simple topic. And to make it very challenging, I always say, you know, at the end of life, if you want to move out of this cycle of birth and death, you know, you have to think about Krishna. Let's say, if you think about husband and wife, a car and a mortgage, you will have a husband or a wife, a car and a mortgage in the next life. And you can see how people translate this in their mind, you know, what I'm actually looking for in my life. So therefore, Bhagavad-gītā is so important because it's the manual for our life, as you said, and it contains all this knowledge, which, at least for me at the beginning, was difficult to understand based on all this Sanskrit, the words or whatever. I tried with some Christians in my home country to give them the Gita, and they came back with the same topic, you know. There are so many words I don't understand. Can you help me to get the essence of the Gita, you know? And we all know, as soon as we have association and we have some guide, the guru, or you know, a friend who can help us to go deeper, it's really unbelievable what's in there.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that's what you said about particular words, right? You can understand that, you know, just like Sanskrit, how am I supposed to know it? And something my Guru Maharaj said, His Grace Vaisheshika Prabhu, I believe he was referring to his book, he's writing a book about meditation, but then he said that for us it's already simple, you know, like all these words, and we have a particular, like, you know, how do you call it? Like when you speak in a particular way, you use particular words, like it's kind of like a language, and he said that, you know what, I really understood that we need to kind of come where the people are, because not everyone will understand what we mean by the word, like prasadam, right, or something like. That's why he's very good at explaining. You know, it's like it's a sanctified food, what we offer to the Lord, like, because people don't understand these things. I really like that realization, and yeah, we see it confirms. Yeah, I guess for me, I just didn't pay attention so much, and it's like, it will come. But that's true about the essence. Like we saw this video the other day, that person was chanting, right, 5 years without any association with devotees. That's pretty amazing. I mean, it's still working, but it will work much faster if we really can guide people to this process, if we can explain, like Jai Krishna Prabhu said, yeah, you will lacking this kind of person. You would want to understand. Thank you. Lila Sukha.
Well, I remember when I first read the Bhagavad-gītā, I was working in the library in the university that I was going to in Toronto, and I found it way at the back. You know, they call them the stacks. There were stacks and stacks and stacks of books. It was very dark back there. But I went back there one day, and there was like a little light coming out of this book. I mean, literally. It was Bhagavad-gītā as it is.
Wow.
I remember hiding back there and sitting and reading it, and especially the second chapter. The first chapter was disturbing because it was about a battle, and I thought, oh, this is not violent, I didn't get it. But the second chapter, every page that I turned, your spirit soul, you're not this body. The soul can be, well, it's not just the second chapter, but the soul can be, you know, cut by knife or withered by the wind or anything like that. So it was just all these kind of thoughts that I'd been having previously that were perfectly described in the Bhagavad-gītā. It just blew my mind, and that immediately made me a devotee. And then I was thinking, and then when I became a mother, that was after I was a devotee, I remember at one point thinking, our raising a child, why doesn't this come with a manual? For something. Where is the world manual for raising a child? And so the way you said that Bhagavad-gītā is a manual for life, for our lives, for how to run our lives, how to teach our children, how to deal with life. So yeah, thank you.
Oh, thank you. I like this idea about the manual. Yeah, it's like everything comes with a manual, We know that Vedas in general, it's a manual for human being, how the human being is supposed to live, like that. Yeah, handbook. Brilliant. But Brilliant distributed his first Bhagavad-gītā 2 days ago?
Yes, that's correct.
Haribo! Haribo! It's a very special moment. He'll remember it for the rest of his life.
So the first time I received a Bhagavad-gītā, I had a spirituality business, a store that sold spirituality books. And so I was a seeker reading these books, but none of them were really satisfying. So I was looking, and one day I met a devotee for my first time. He was on Harinam, he had his books, his mridanga, his incense that he was burning, and I noticed that everyone is avoiding the devotee, like they're afraid of the devotee. And I'm like, here's a person willing to dress the way they are, willing to be out here, put out their heart. I'm going to go see what they have to say. And so I sat down with him, he gave me a mantra card, and I chanted with him, and I felt such bliss from chanting. He's like, wow, you really got a taste for this. If you like this, you should read, some of Śrīmad Bhagavad-gītā's books. And I said, well, I got a bookstore. I can start, selling the books from my store. Do you think that would help? And he's like, yeah, great. So he brought me some books. So I put the books in my store, and the first one I was attracted to was Bhagavad-gītā. It had a very attractive orange cover, and I was really interested because I was staring at the book every day and I wanted to know more about what this monk was into. So I started reading Bhagavad-gītā, and all these really amazing events started happening in my life. I started chanting. I started meeting devotees who were attracted to my store, so they started coming, so I started meeting devotees. And it really started transforming my perspective on things. As I was reading the books, I was looking at my life like, wow, if I always thought that, we weren't the body and that there was more to life than this and stuff like that, and now I'm, feeling like I'm on the machine of material life, and that there was a movie playing before my eyes, and that it was for my spiritual well-being. And so I started getting association with the devotees, and they started inviting me to the temple, and that's a whole other story, but yeah.
Wow. Where was it?
Really, West Virginia.
Oh, okay. Yeah, ripe fruit.
And distributing the Bhagavad-gītā for the first time for me was really, really special, just, like maybe a week ago. I saw everyone's techniques and strategies, and I tried them, and I wasn't having any luck, and I was getting really, really discouraged. And so there was one young man who was walking by at the university, and I just approached him. I was like, "Are you a transcendentalist?" And he was like, "Whoa, I don't even know what that is." And I was like, they think that there's more to life than just waking up, eating, going to work, and going home at night, that there's, that we're not the body, that there's so much here going on, and he was really, really resonating with it. Wow. And so I was like, wow, there's so much feel in their heart that they were really favorable, and all the people who were putting up walls or putting on the headphones in their ears so they wouldn't have to listen to you. And so I felt sincere in my conversation with him, and we got really, really connected. Wow. And I was like, we don't, sell these books or anything, we were just trying to cover the printing, and, it's my first time out here. And he's like, yeah, I'd really like to take it if I can. Can I give you a donation? Wow. And so he gave me a few dollars for the book, and I felt a real taste suddenly like come into me. After all this discouragement, I felt like just because I distributed one book, the entire day was a success, and yeah, that's my experience with Bhagavad-gītā. Wow, thank you so much for sharing. That's amazing. Srila Prabhupada said,
that for preaching, everyone has his or her own genius inside. So there is no right or wrong way to distribute books. We have different techniques which really working nicely, but it doesn't mean that when you feel inspired to say something you're not supposed to say, because like I said, Krishna is a super soul in everyone's heart, and he's guiding you. So many things you say something, but then person reacts on what you say, and you're like, I didn't say anything special, like I read about it every single day, but for them it is special. It is something like, probably no one ever talked to this guy, about are you transcendentalist? What? Who is this guy? It's very powerful. And of course, good impression of a devotee. Usually devotees remember, usually people who become devotees, they remember it really for the rest of their life. First devotee who they ever met and who gave them Bhagavad-gītā or any books. So it's, powerful. Lord Chaitanya said we all have to become a guru, teach others. Yes, Mathura Prabhu.
Well, I appreciate what Krishna was saying about how it was hard for him to understand everything or some of the words that were in the Gita that he was reading. So he needed to go seek out association, and that's how I felt too. Mm-hmm. I felt the same thing. Although there was a power that was working on me just to be holding the Gita, to be reading it without even understanding a lot of it. So, and that just brought me to the remembrance how some of the devotees on the Vrindaban party, one of the buses didn't have deities there to worship, on the road. And Śrīla Prabhupada said, just worship the books. He said, you can offer arti to these books. And in that regard, in the Gita itself, there's a purport, I don't know exactly where, Śrīla Prabhupada says that one who reads the Gita in the proper mood is embracing the body of Krishna, none different from embracing Krishna. So when you think about that, it's just a power there. That energy is special.
Thank you. Yeah, but books also. I just remembered a funny story that before, in old days, the devotees would distribute books all the time. They hardly, eat at temples or something. They would be out all day long, and what they did. They would, if they buy something in a store, they would just, they just don't try it at home. They just put it in a book bag, and it's considered to be offered. But that's what they did, and it's a sincere attempt to please Srila Prabhupada and to distribute more books. Don't spend time, for food or, for any different kind of things. Yeah. Thank you for sharing. Anybody else would like to share? We still have 3 minutes. Madhuri.
I want to say that I have the same experience, along with what Krishna Prabhupada said. I think just what Prabhupada said, the same thing. I had a very difficult time going through Bhagavad-gītā. It took me the whole year to read it. I was reading the small books, a bunch, but Bhagavad-gītā was very difficult. So I was talking to Levi, devotee from Morgantown, last Saturday, and he said, I probably read it 6 times, and he's just coming here for half a year, and he read it 6 times. I'm like, I don't think I read it 6 times in my 30 years of Krishna consciousness. I'm like, these are special people, jewels, and so that's and I was just reflecting on my experiences of selling books since you were talking. That it's just Krishna reciprocates so deeply in tangibly when you distribute the books. I've never felt such a reciprocation probably on that level. Yeah. From any other service. And I still remember the first time, I was so young, it was like minus probably 20 degrees Celsius. I don't know whatever you need to translate to Fahrenheit. It was just so freezing cold, and this devotee was so fired up. She put me there on the street with the books, and the table in this terribly freezing cold. And I'm not sure if I saw anything, but I still remember there was this satisfaction of this like, yes, Krishna is pleased. And any other times when it was so difficult also to go through my mind resistance to go and actually distribute the books. Afterwards, I was always bothering with my mind to go out. But on the way to the temple, I was basically floating in the air. I wasn't even walking, I was just like so much in bliss. But it took always the battles with my mind initially. It wasn't never easy. That's what I see what you do here, which is because I was basically alone. What makes it much easier is to have, a group like you do of the Harinam. Alone, it's really a battle. At least for me, was.
Oh yeah.
But I think Krishna appreciates it more because if it takes more effort, then it's like Krishna sees it's like for some people it's easy.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's like more or less appreciation from Krishna. He appreciates all the effort because sometimes even if you have so many people around, you still can struggle to distribute books.
Yeah, that's true.
It's literally in the mind, and it's fighting with the mind, not like fighting, but trying to convince the mind. And so 20 degrees, 68 degrees Fahrenheit. It's minus 20, you said.
Minus 20 Celsius.
Let me see. Minus 4. Minus 4 degrees Fahrenheit. Yeah, I can relate to this experience a lot. And you said that you feel that Krishna reciprocates a lot when you really, put yourself out there and just, rely completely on Krishna's mercy because you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know. You cannot really plan. You cannot really control anything. All you can do is just pray hard and pray to people and see Krishna's magic. And that's why devotees do it. Why do you think they do it? Why do you think they distribute books for years? Because they have this higher taste. My Guru Maharaj says book distribution it's a high sadhana, right? Because when you do it, you really feel it. Of course, the mood is supposed to be right? Because it will eventually book distribution will kind of cure all your pride and different things. It will happen. It's a higher sadhana, but it might be painful. But the point is, devotees feel it. Devotees feel it when they're going out. Why they're going out? In rain, with this book sign, with the book bag, in the rain, somewhere in a subway where no one wants Bhagavad-gītā. There's homeless people there. Literally no one wants. Everyone is just harassing you there. Why do you still do it? Because the higher taste. Because this taste which comes, it's like a, in material world, like a drugs, right? You try something nice. I wasn't dealing drugs, but I guess, this is how people feel. You try something and you like how you feel from it, right? And what you're gonna do, you will try to do it again. But you see, in our life, it's, we can get this, addiction. Yeah, it's literally, sometimes it becomes an addiction, the service. It's, well, in a good way, of course. Yeah, I went through this experience when I went to distribute books just like 24/7. I didn't care where. In subway, on the way home, on the way back, on the way to the temple, on Harinam, without Harinam, in a store, in laundry. Literally, you just carry books with you everywhere in Krishna. Well, Lord Chaitanya makes arrangement for you to do it. It's perfection of life. Thank you so much for your kind attention, and today at 10 we will read Bhagavad-gītā in Sanskrit language. Everyone online will be streamed, right? Of course. Will be streamed. Someone Mayapur TV streamed. Yeah, so you're welcome to join and read along with the devotees who will be reading. It will be in Sanskrit, and then at 5 p.m. I'm not sure. Well, it probably also will be streamed online because it will be in the temple. We'll read again in English. So, full day of mercy. keep the transcendental vibration going. Jai. All glories to Bhagavad-gītā. Haribol.
Divyangi Prabhu ki
Jai.
jai.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai.